Hello my crafty peeps, it's Cheyenne from PixieCrafter.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If you're looking for a demonstrator, I would love for you to choose me. If you're looking to become a demonstrator, go ahead and contact me. I would love to have you on my team of Pixie Crafters. Remember, you can shop my online store 24/7. Alright, welcome to today's tutorial. Now, we're going to be having some fun. So this is going to be a tips and techniques, and then we're going to be making a card. So I'm going to show you how to make your own decorative masks. We're going to be using the window sheet and the Eastern medallions die set. We're also going to be using some of the stamps from the Eastern Beauty stamp set as well. Now these dies are perfect because they do more of an inlay. They're not cutting out an entire piece. So this is only going to cut out the inside of it, and it'll stay on your paper. You'll see more once we start cutting it. But this is really going to make it easy to design a decorative mask that you can use with your inks and your spritzers and, of course, your embossing paste. So we're going to have some fun with that. So let's see. So we'll need our dies, our window sheet, our big shot, and I'm using the precision base plate because we are doing some intricate cuts. Our embossing paste, a palette knife. I've got some basic black baker's twine, a piece of Whisper White thick cardstock for the card base. I've cut it at 4 1/4 by 11, sorted it 5 1/2. Then I've got a piece of basic gray cardstock, which is 4 by 5 1/4. A piece of Berry Burst cardstock, which is 3 3/4 by 5, and then I've got a piece of Whisper White that is 2 by 3 3/4. So those are all of our dimensions. Don't you just love that color combination? So nice, so lovely. All right, let's put that stuff off to the side for now, and we're gonna get our big shot going. So let's get set up for that. Alright, so here we have our Stampin' Up! Big Shot. It is a bit of an investment, but if you've been following me for a while, you know that I love my Big Shot. I use it in a lot of my projects, and it's really worth the money. You might have to save up for it a little bit to begin with, but it's totally worth it. You're going to get a lot of use out of this. And now I've got my magnetic platform and my precision base plate. I find that this is a perfect combination for my machine and everything. So you'll notice that how tight the rollers are, there's a little bit of difference between the machines because it's got to be, you know, a little bit imperfect, right? So sometimes you're going to have to play with what works best. Maybe you have to add a paper shim, maybe not. But for my machine, this is fantastic. So let me find, there's the window sheet. It's clear, I couldn't see it. So I'm going to go ahead and pop on my window sheet. Now I've cut this to be let's see, what did I cut it at? 5 1/2 by 4 3/4. So it's a little bit bigger than a standard A2 size card front. I tend to only make A2 and A1 sizes, so this will be perfect for a card. It's also a good size for adding to a scrapbook layout or anything like that. Alright, now I'm going to start to build up my medallions. So I'm just going to pop on a few, and I don't want it to necessarily go over the edge, so I'm going to leave a little bit of room. And I like how these set up, so I'm just going to place them in here, kind of line them up. Now you see that little, you know, arch? This triangle, I'm going to kind of get them all so that they're more in the center of it. You are building a pretty symmetrical design, so let's make sure it's going through pretty well, and then just pop in that center bit there. So now we are just going to run it through, and because this is an intricate dies, I like to go back and forth a couple times just to make sure that everything's getting cut through. And I do find with the Eastern medallions, you do want to run it through multiple times for the best results. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, I also forgot to mention that you might want to get your die brush with the pad together for this. It'll make cleanup a breeze on all of this. So I'm just going to pop all of those out, and that's fine, just like that. So let's go ahead and set up another medallion. Maybe we won't use all of those. We'll just use the two little inner guys, and you know what? Let's bring in the other inner guys too. So we'll have some fun with this. I just want a whole lot of different areas where we can, you know, get that embossing paste to go through and just have a good time. Have a good time. So let's go ahead and run this through a few times. Alright, so now we have those. Now I'm going to kind of try to fill in the areas just a little bit more. Get it just a little bit more animated, and I think that'll be good. So let's go ahead and run those through now so that we can finish up our stencil. So exciting! Alright, so now we've got it all run through. Now let's use our die brush to kind of help push out some of these bits and pieces. Because it's the window sheet, you might have to get out some sort of pokey tool to help with that. And I think that's what I'm going to have to do with this as well. So let's go ahead and I'll do that, get all the pieces out, and then we'll go from there. Alright, all the bits and pieces are popped out. Our mask is done. I've got it against the basic gray so you can kind of see where our bits and pieces are going to be. Now, if you only wanted to use, let's say, one of the medallions, you could go ahead and tape off the rest of these with masking tape so that you don't get any embossing powder or ink or anything on these, and then you can use just each individual medallion if you wanted to. But look at how gorgeous that is. This is gonna be so much fun. And all right, take a moment to imagine this as a card front. Like, let's have, like, I don't know, a blue snow theme, and then you've got snowflakes instead of medallions, and you just pop this on over it, and your like watercolor wash of all the different blues and purples is going to show right through. All right, but let's actually use this as a stencil and a mask. So let's pull out our Berry Burst piece and our handy dandy masking tape, and I'm going to go ahead and set this on how I want it to be. All right, there we go. I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm actually going to use the masking tape on the back of this. That is my little secret to be able to get edge-to-edge coverage with your embossing paste or your inking or whatever without, you know, it's all adhered on, you know, it's not going anywhere, it's not going to slip and slide. So there we go. All right, and now let's go ahead and grab our embossing paste and slide this over. Actually, we're going to get our silicone mat, and then we're going to get messy. So let's do that. We're just going to go in, dip in. Now, there doesn't have to be a whole lot of the embossing paste to get this effect. You'll probably end up getting most of this back into the container. It doesn't take a whole lot to get the job done. And I'm just making sure that this is going to be nice and flat for me. Alright, so let's go ahead and start going over all of our bits and pieces. Okay, so let's do a little bit of an advanced technique now. I've got the embossing paste on. I'm at the point where I could go ahead and lift off the mask and have fun, and you know, rinse it off and call it a day. But I want to take some of my Stampin' Up silver glitter, and I'm just going to sprinkle just a little bit over, getting it everywhere, because glitter gets everywhere. So just like that, you know, we're going to work it in, so don't worry about it being a little messy. Okay, now we're going to take our palette knife again, and we're going to start to work that glitter in and around. Now, we've already got all the extra embossing paste over, so we're not going to be scraping this back into the jar or anything. We are just going to move this around and get that glitter really kind of worked into the top of that embossing paste. This is going to give such a gorgeous look. I've done this with the Dazzling Diamonds, and it's very, very unicorny and gorgeous, because I love the Dazzling Diamonds. It's not just like a white, there's also like pinks and greens, and it's just all sorts of yummy gorgeousness. Okay, so we're at this point. Let's go ahead and clean off our palette knife, and I'm going to go and clean the mask off. I just use some warm soapy water. I've got a sponge that's dedicated to cleaning off, you know, goopy material from my projects, and you definitely want to do this while it's wet. Do not wait for it to dry. I worked it a little hard and it's a little smudged, but that's okay. We'll work with it. We'll work with it. Okay. Let's go do that and we'll be back. Okay, so while we're here, let's go ahead and test out our stencil with some other things. So this is just a piece of scrap Sahara or crumb cake that I had. So I'm just going to get this all set up, and I've made my own DIY ink spritzes. So all you do is you add alcohol, just standard, not like, you know, alcohol that you drink, but the isopropyl alcohol that you would use to, like, you know, clean cuts and scrapes. And then you can customize how deep and dark you're going to make your spritz by how much of your ink refill that you add to it. The alcohol is going to allow it to dry a lot faster, so that's handy. So this is early espresso onto crumb cake, and we're just going to spritz it. Now, because it's a spritz, don't expect it to be very exact and precise. It's a little bit wet. It's going to have a little bit of a distressed feel to it, so keep that in mind. So I've got to get this started because it's a new one, and then you're just going to lightly spritz over. All right, smells like a doctor's office in here now. All right, what I like to then do is take a piece of paper towel and just kind of absorb up any of the extra spritz that's kind of on top. And you see, there you go. Once it dries up, it's just going to be a nice, soft, subtle little effect to it. I didn't make my spritzers all that deep and dark. I only added maybe about 10 drops to each one, so they are more of a light touch. So that is just going to be gorgeous. Now let's try it with some ink and sponges. Let's get this all cleaned up. Alright, so I've got a piece of powder pink. This is also a great way to use up your scraps, by the way, because I'm just pulling from my scrap pile. So powder pink, and then I've got some melon mambo and part of my stamping sponge. The stamp daubers would work pretty nicely on this too. So I'm just going to kind of pat it in just as if you were doing a nice little stencil, and then I'm going to kind of start to work it around. So that initial pat, it's kind of distributing the ink that's on there, so it's not going to get too crazy. And I'm not pushing down too hard. I'm just kind of lightly rubbing across. Alright, now let's go a little crazy here because I've got a bit of an idea. Let's get out the rich razzleberry now, just because that's what I feel like doing. I'm designing as I go. Okay, rich razzleberry, and now we're going to go ahead and get that ink going down here. You get a little bit more control with this, so you're able to really blend a couple different colors going on. Oh, I think this is going to be So pretty. All right, are we ready to see what this gorgeousness is going to be? Looks very promising. All right, look at that. Lovely, love it. I love the ombre of it. Oh my God, I'm so happy with this. This is fantastic. Okay, so let's clean up this and actually like check our embossing paste piece and see what it's doing. All right, here we have our pieces. Now this was the initial embossing paste one. And I did try to clean up some of the smooches a little bit. You do have a little bit of time to be able to work with it that way. I just think I worked it a little bit too hard. I put too much pressure on when I was using the palette knife. So be aware of how much pressure with the palette knife and what angle you're using. Like keep it, you know, kind of like when you're pulling off Scotch tape, you kind of want to do it at kind of like a 45-degree angle. So keep that in mind. This is the second one I did with not as much pressure. I still have a little bit of a smooching happening, but I'm okay with it. It is a handmade stencil. I don't expect perfection. I'm pretty happy with how this is. Like, it's okay, I can work with it. And here are our other examples. So you see, you get that nice little like vintagey feel with this one. I love it. It looks like, you know, someone left grandma's doilies out and, you know, the sun like bleached it and everything. So that's gorgeous. And this one, I'm just in love with this one. This is gorgeous. I love it. So I definitely say that the ink sponging, like that's going to give you a really wonderful effect. So is the spritzing, as long as you have a light hand with it. The embossing paste you can do, but you have to watch your pressure on it. So, all right, still lovely. Let's put our card together, shall we? Okay, so we've got all of our bits and pieces. Let's go ahead and pick out a sentiment to stamp on here. I think I want to go with "Let's be friends forever." I think that's very fitting for this card. And this is part of the Eastern Palace suite. So this is the stamp and the dies. You can get them individually or you can get them as a bundle. Since I have a big shot, if there's something that does have a coordinating die set, I get the bundle. You save 10% doing it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this just kind of centered up in the middle. This is going to be a fairly simple card. Like we did a lot with the background, with the embossing paste and stuff like that. I want that to be the star of the show, so to speak. All right, cleaning off my stamp, and now let's get some decorative stuff going on here as well, because we do have all of these lovely stamps that we could use in this set. You know what? Okay, there we go. We'll have these little corner pieces. Let me get a... Sometimes I find like it definitely makes a difference to have a block that fits your stamp a little bit better. You get better results with it. All right, we're just going to pop these up in the corner just to give it a little something something. And I am using the Berry Burst ink. Figure, you know, let's keep it all in the same family. Keep it simple. Oh, this is gorgeous. Man, this corner like really just kind of gives it that extra little something, right? All right, let's clean off this stamp and all right, I experienced a little bit of a technical difficulty. Apparently my memory card was full, so I had to clear off some room so we could finish up this card. All right, so I've got my basic gray Stampin' Pad, and I've got the little diamond from the Eastern Beauty stamp set, and I'm just going to, ink that up and stamp it right here in the corners, just as a little something, tying it all in together, finishing it up. It's all these little details that you take the time to do, and that's really what's going to make this card. All right, let's clean that up, get it put away, and then I also want to take this little S pattern too, because sometimes I just don't know when enough is enough. So it's just that little S, And I'm going to stamp that along the edges here. Alright, there we go. I think that's it. If you have the, oh, what are they? Hold on. Let me double check what it actually is. It's one of the new punch sets, and it's adorable, and it's on my wish list. Here we go, the Label Me Pretty set. You could use, I'm thinking that label with the sentiment, and that would be pretty awesome as well. Alright, but that's not what we did because that's not what I have. So here we go. Now it's time to assemble. As soon as I make sure I don't have ink on my hands. So little baby wipe action going on. There we go. And let's get our adhesives out. Now, alright, first thing I'm wanting to do is I want to go ahead and adhere this on. Now this is a raised surface, so the liquid glue really comes in handy with that because it's going to sink in. I love the snail adhesive. The snail is great, but sometimes you still just need your liquid glue. So let's go ahead and get that on. There we go. And I think I want it, you know, fairly centered on there. So there's that. Now I've cut a couple pieces of the basic black baker's twine, and I want that to go over the top of each of those. And I'm just going to use some handy dandy tape to adhere these onto the back. Nothing fancy, nothing extravagant. Sometimes you just gotta keep it simple, make it easy. There you go. So that one's at the top, and then I want this one at the bottom, just like so. Alright, there we go. Now let's go ahead and adhere that on. Why don't we use our snail for that? We'll use our snail for the rest. Just because. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this all adhesed up. There we go. Actually, I'm gonna do a little bit more just because there's a little bit more weight to this. Center it up on our basic gray piece. It's really coming together now, isn't it? Alright, let's get our base all creased and everything, scored and creased. Alright, here we go. We've got our card front on there. And voila, we have our finished piece. Lots of fun, right? So I enjoyed making my own DIY stencil that I can, you know, have all sorts of fun with. So I'm still loving that. Oh, it's gorgeous. Okay. So that is it for today's project. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Feel free to leave comments. I love hearing what you guys have to say. A full list of the products I use can be found in the description bar, along with links to my website, pixiecrafter.com, and my online store that you can shop at 24/7. If you head on over to my to pixiecrafter.com, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter, and if you are a resident of the United States, you can also sign up for my birthday club. I will send you a handmade birthday card from me to you as a show of appreciation for supporting my small business. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and yeah, that is it for today. So until next time, happy crafting. Bye!